I'm truly humbled by the honor that the class of 2016 bestowed on me, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. Reflecting on the host of insightful and impressive educators that have had a part of your life here, I realized that you couldn't have picked a less deserving candidate. But it is with great joy that I come here tonight on the eve of your graduation, celebrate many honors, awards, and accolades that you have earned both individually and collectively. To the parents of the class of 2016, first I say thank you for entrusting Crespi with a small portion of the development of your sons. Speaking on behalf of the school, I can assure you that we welcome the boys at our door with respect for who they were and enthusiasm for the man that he would become. When you enrolled your son at Crespi, you took us on not as contractors who would help you check boxes to shuffle that young man on to the next phase, but instead as an extended family, take it or leave it, who would share in the struggles and the joys of preparing a young man for the road ahead. Tonight is one of those joys, and while the road to get here may be riddled with evidence of those struggles, we are here as a family, and for that I thank you. To the faculty and staff who have provided these students with an array of experiences that is nothing if not boundless, congratulations. The true yield of an educator's harvest may not be collected for decades, but you can rejoice in the young men we celebrate here. The successes enumerated tonight and at graduation tomorrow are seedlings, glimpses of the contributions you've sown throughout the last 4 years. And I think we can all agree that you deserve a green thumbs up. It's the first one. To the students in the class of 2016, I will speak to you tonight, not as a representative of the school, which is the capacity in which you've heard me speak so many times, often at pep rallies, as if I was introducing a WWE event. But instead, I will speak to you as a dude talking to a bunch of other dudes about how proud dude A is of dudes B through DG. That's a little spreadsheet humor for you data enthusiasts. Get that out of Excel and figure out what I mean. But first, so that everybody in the room can have an appreciation and some context for what we're going to cover tonight, we'll talk about how far we've come and take it all the way back to freshman English. You know, lesson 1 from freshman English class is vocabulary. Without it, your freestyles will be forever weak. But with it, you can describe weak old fish as the chef's preeminent gastronomic innovation. So please use the vocab that you learned, including the VPP words in your VPP books. Lesson 2 was drag art. For each chapter of Dracula, you all created priceless artistic representations of the actions. Not only was that a fun way to engage in the literature, but it was also a cost-effective way to replace the butcher paper in the back of room 16. So I thank you for that. Lesson 3 was tech breaks. You guys remember tech breaks? This was a time that we would dedicate to using our smart devices, sometimes for gaming, sometimes for research, sometimes for social networking. But who would have figured way back then that as seniors, you would be encouraged to use your technology the whole class period in the form of your MacBook? But once they blocked Slither, like, who really wanted to? And lesson number 4 for freshman English was Edgar Allan Poe is life. Okay, maybe not life, but he's definitely English. There's no facet in the study of English that you can't study through Poe. So when in doubt, quote the Raven. When in doubt, quote the Raven. That's what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure that covers all of what I was supposed to have taught in freshman English, but the good news is Crespi requires 4 years of English, so I'm sure you picked it up along the way if I missed anything. And along the way, we've grown together because you were the last class that I had in the classroom for freshman English. After that, I got the illustrious position of Vice Principal of Academics. And I've watched you grow as I've grown in that position. And I've selfishly seen my own part, my own contribution in you and so many of the unique and profound experiences that you've had at Crescent. And when I call your names at graduation tomorrow, I will be recalling the little ways that each of you have impressed and surprised me. Like that time a bold sophomore requested a leadership role and increased responsibility in an extracurricular activity. He showed us all what intelligence, ambition, and discipline can achieve. Eric Siegel steered the academics decathlon team from a perennial cellar dweller to third and second place finishes in consecutive years. Of course, this year started off with a leg up on all other school years when a horde of early rising seniors and a scrappy but dedicated group of teachers showed the world what would happen when you inject a backyard pastime with a healthy dose of self-competitiveness. You heard it here first. Ultimate Frisbee will be a CIF sport in 2020. And one of you guys might be the coach, Cooper Murphy. Got my vote. And this year, I can't drive on Santa Rita or Alonzo without a great sense of automotive pride. Shout out to the Jeep gang. We gotta go four-wheeling. Afro, Tony, Paul, you know who you are. The list goes on and on of all the smiles that we've shared. Beyond that, though, I know that high school can be a difficult and a challenging time. Because when we weren't winning championships or tossing frisbees or employing a multidisciplinary approach to studying manhood and masculinity in period 5, becoming a man, I know that you all face situations in which you had difficulty meeting the expectations of the school. In those instances, when the rules of the school or the policies of a team or the expectations of a teacher are difficult to meet, it's very easy for a teenager to enter a survival mindset, fighting the powers that be or devising sly ways to circumvent the rules. It may take years to truly appreciate, but it was in those moments that you were most blessed to be part of a Carmelite community. When you slept in, and you were arriving late to school, and you knew that an unexcused tardy would result in an after-school detention, you probably felt a sense of resent for a school rule that may have been explained to you as preparing you for the real world when punctuality really matters. In response, you may have crafted a heart-wrenching tale of traffic and woe that resulted in an excused tardy slip from Ms. Dill and Mrs. Harrigan. At that time, it may have seemed like you really got one over on the system. But as you head out into the world as a crusty man, please recognize that Ms. Dill and Mrs. Harrigan can recognize a tall tale from a mile away. And that excused tardy was intended not to prepare you for the real world, but to prepare you for a better world. The one that you will be the authors of. The one that puts the Carmelite value of justice to action. So when you're in a position to offer a helping hand to somebody who needs it, you'll find that in your heart. When khakis and a polo shirt presented too rigid of a framework within to operate, you got through 3 classes before the dean noticed and invited you to spend some extra time after school on Thursday. The lesson was not that you almost got away with it except for that meddling dean. The lesson is that committing to an ideal, staying true to something greater than yourself is a virtue. And this community was that something greater. The dress code was just one small way of bringing us all together and putting us on an even playing field. When strings of zeros in a teacher's grade book were supposed to teach you lessons about due dates in the real world, but a frenzied rally of X periods and makeup work transformed a failing grade into a passing one, the lesson is not that procrastination and last-ditch efforts are rewarded in the real world. The lesson is that in a better world, kindness and mercy are virtues that we can all afford encourage you to reflect on them and how those experiences and the lessons that you learned have prepared you not for the real world, but for a better world. And consider the little ways that you can help build that better world. I know that this might come as quite a shock to most of you, but I don't have an infinite pool of wisdom, nor do I have all of the answers. And I resisted the temptation to use quotes to bolster what you might perceive as my own knowledge or authority. But recognizing the limits of my own abilities, I leave you with this. Crespi has taught many lessons, some obvious, some subtle. And I can already see you becoming the men that we hoped you would be. But for the lessons we haven't taught you, there's one place that you can go for all that you need to know. The Fast and the Furious. The whole series, except of course Tokyo Drift, which we all know was a huge mistake. One of my favorite pieces of advice, you ask any racer, any real racer, doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning. Dominic Rose. Now there are some lessons that you can relate to Crespi. Like, no matter how buff and bald and great of a street racer you might be and run an international team of criminals turned heroes, there's going to be a time when the tables are going to be turned and Deckard Shaw is going to have you in his sights and you're going to be out of options. And then a shiny muscle man with a great smile is going to show up and fix everything. And when someone asks you if you're still friends with anyone from high school, you can rely on the words of Dominic Toretto by saying, I don't have friends, I have a family. And we're a family here tonight, so congratulations, let's get to some awards. I'm going to invite Crespi's president, Dr. Forsch, and Crespi's principal, Dr. Shield, to greet and congratulate our winners as they receive their awards and honors. Please also join me in thanking Mrs. Long and Mrs. Watson for their hours of prep work for tonight's ceremony. Academic awards for each department. For the English department, we'll have Mr. John King joining us. For the Fine Arts department, Mr. Brian Billick. For the World Languages department, Mr. Jose Villasenor. For mathematics, Mr. Tim Selby. For the Science department, we have Mr. Rodney Olson. For Social Studies, Mr. Mark Gillis. And for Theology, Mr. Chris Kadekinshu. The 4-year Academic Department Award for English goes to Josh Greaves. The recipient of the 4-year Academic Department Award for Fine Arts is Jorge Padilla. The 4-year Academic Department Award for World Languages goes to Cameron Bolger. For math, the recipient is Darren Casey. The recipient of the 4-year Academic Department Award for Science is Teo Leo Chong. The recipient of the 4-year Academic Department Award for Social Studies is Pete Christensen. And the 4-year Academic Department Award for Theology, Daniel Silva. And we have 2 winners for the 4-year award for Student Council, Jack Doyle and Sean Muldoon. It is now time to honor the top students of this year's senior class, and Mrs. Parkins will adorn them with stoles to be worn at graduation. The 2016 salutatorian, with a cumulative grade point average of 4.604, Benjamin Donovan. The 2016 valedictorian for Crespi Carmelite High School with a GPA of 4.667, Pete Christensen.